We're here in the Gemara on the top of Daf Yud Amud Aleph. 3 lines from the top. So the whole Gemara that we're going to learn today goes through different cases of Sveikis. All kinds of Sveikis, benegay to Bedikas Chametz, whether you chayav to do Bedika or not. We have about 10 cases over here, as we'll see. Let me just mention before we start the Gemara, there's a famous word from the Magid Mishnah, which the Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch as well, that even though b'derech klal when it comes to sveikis, so for sure when it comes to sveikis that are negeh to a chiyuv midarabanan, we're always lenient. The usual klal is safik midaraisa l'chumra and safik darabanan l'hakol. Nevertheless, the Gemara goes through many cases, and the Gemara will be makel here as well. But the basis of this whole Gemara is that the whole entire takana of bedikas chametz was l'chatchila instituted for a matzav of a safik. When you look in the Mishnah, the first Mishnah of the Masechta, what does the Mishnah say? A makim shemachnisim by chametz is b'choyev in bedika. What's a makim shemachnisim by chametz? A place do you know that there's definitely chametz there? No. A makim shemachnisim by chametz, one of the examples we had before is, a person has a wine cellar, and it's possible that in the middle of the meal he went down and he brought a piece of bread there, and therefore he has to do bedika there. So if you think about such a case, it's possible he brought the bread there, possible he did not bring bread there. Even if he brought bread there, it's possible that he took his wine, walked out of the cellar, and he didn't leave his bread there. It says that's already a second suffix. Usually the klal is, when you have svek sveika, you don't have to do any bedika. You wouldn't have to do anything about it. Svek sveika is potter. For sure when you're talking about a chiv midarabanan. But nevertheless, the entire chiv of bedikas chametz was instituted for a situation of a suffix. So therefore in a case which is machnisim by chametz, which is the chatchila a suffix, you're obligated to do the bedika. That's the basis of this whole Gemara over here. But nevertheless, here we're going to go through different cases where there's fakis, whether there's chametz or not, and the Gemara is going to show us when we could be lenient and when not. Sagt the Gemara, tzibur echad shel chametz. You have a pile of chametz. Well, the fun of beis batim bedukin, and you have 2 houses where the bedika was already done. V'asa achbar, and a mouse came, v'shakal, and took from this pile of chametz, v'lo yadinan ilahai ayil, Ilahai all, that is, Ilahai all. To which house did it enter? It for sure entered into one house, but you're not sure into which house it entered to. So where do you do bedika? Do you have to do bedika in either house? This example will be exactly the same like a Mishnah of Shnei Shvilin. Shnei Shvilin means a case of 2 pathways. What's the case of 2 pathways? So this is a case benegay to Tumah. Tanan, it says in a Mishnah, Shnei Shvilin, you have 2 pathways, Echad Tameh, one pathway is Tameh, V'echad Toir, and one pathway is Toir. In other words, you have one pathway where there's a caver there, or there's a dead body there, and you cannot pass through this pathway without becoming Tameh. So what happened? V'halach be'echad mehen, so one individual walked in one of these pathways, V'asataris, and then he goes and touches things that are tahir, trumah, whatever it is. And then his friend goes also in another pathway, not the same pathway as him. V'holach b'sheni, goes in another pathway, v'asataris, and he also goes and touches things which are tahir. So the question is, between these 2 people, one of them for sure encountered tumah, but we don't know who. It's a suffix. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, im nishalu zeh b'fnei atzma v'zeh b'fnei atzma, if each one of them comes separately and asks a question to Bezdin, am I tahir or am I tamei, tahirin? So then each one separately we paskin to him that you're tahir. What's the reason that he's tahir? Because it's a suffix. It's a suffix tumah. And a suffix tumah is tahir, especially when it's in a Reshus HaRabim. The halacha of suffix tumah in the Reshus HaRabim is that you're tahir. So each one went in a pathway, doesn't know where he went, and he's tahir. Shneim b'vasa achas, if they both come and ask their question together, and we have to give a psak to both of them together, so then tameim. So then they're going to be tamei, because if they come together, so we know for sure that somebody is tamei. So how can we paskin that they're tahir? This is Rabbi Yehuda's shittah. Rabbi Yesi says, benkach u benkach tameim. Whether they came and asked the question separately, whether they came and asked the question together, either way we know that someone went and encountered the tumah for sure, even though for each individual it's a suffix, but nevertheless we're going to paskin that they're tameh. The Gemara explains exactly when they're arguing. Amar Rava v'teimer Rabbi Yechanan, V'vasachas, if they come and ask the question together. You have these two people, and between the two of them, someone for sure encountered the tumah, and they're coming and asking the question together. And Bezdin asked the paskin to two people, Reuven and Shimon. Both of you are either tamei or tahir. If they come b'vasachas, so then there's no question. Divrei hakel tmeyin, they're for sure tamei. If they come and ask the question each individually, separately, so then everybody agrees, Divrei hakel tahirin. Because I'm paskining for one person now, and for you it's a suffix. And then the next person comes and asks a question, for him it's a suffix as well. When is the argument over here? When one of them comes to ask the question, and he's asking the question about himself, and also for his friend. Rabbi Yasi says, just like if both of them came together and asked the question, so I'd have to paskin that somebody is tamei, so I'll have to be machmer. If you come and ask the question for you and your friend, I also have to be machmer. So Rashi explains, when you're asking the question for you and your friend, the Bezdin doesn't have to paskin individually that you're tamei and your friend is tamei. The Bezdin has to paskin just for one person, and you'll understand that the same halacha applies for your friend. But because you weren't only asking about yourself, you're asking for you and for your friend, so b'shas they give the psak for you individually, it's understood that the same psak applies to your friend. So even if Bezdin doesn't actually give the psak for you and your friend, but if you're asking the question for you and your friend, so the psak is for both of you together. So therefore Bezdin can't say that you're both tahir. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, that you're asking a question about yourself, and Bezdin gives the psak din that's negayah to you, and then you have to have your own seichel and apply the same psak for your friend. Bezdin gave you only a psak for you individually. For me as an individual, it's tahir, because I went into a place, I'm not sure which pathway I went to, and I'm tahir. And then I told my friend that Bezdin gave me this psak, you could apply the same psak for you as well. And therefore it's not a psak that Bezdin is giving for two people together. Taisvis over here actually says, if you look in the second Taisvis, it's 2 lines. Taisvis says, Nire Tahainu v'derabbanan. D'midairaisa afilu b'vasachas tahairim. This whole discussion over here, when you have a situation that somebody is definitely tamei, and you don't know who it is, and Bezdin gives the psak for each one individually that they're for sure tahir, and when they give the psak together, someone has to be tamei, it's only midrabanan. Minat Teira, there's a klal out of paskin. Minat Teira, a suffix tumen, the shusarabim is tahir. Doesn't make a difference, they came together, they came separately, doesn't matter. We have a klal out of paskin minat Teira. Midrabanan, the lashon that it says in other Rishonim is that it's a chuchat lula, that it looks to people strange that we know for sure that someone's tamei. So how could you paskin for two people that they're both tamei, that they're both tahir? So therefore, Rabbanan said that you should be machman and paskin that he's tahir. But minat Teira, it doesn't make a difference how they asked. They came together, they came separately, they would be tahir. This whole thing is a chumrah midrabanan.
So there's a kosev without the svara.
The what? The what?
There's a kosev without svara.
A suffix tumah is not tamei. A suffix tumah. I mean, if you want to call it exeris hakosev, you can call it exeris hakosev. But when each individual, when we apply the psak to each individual, it's a suffix tumah. If I combine both individuals together, so then for sure there's tumah amongst them. But that's not the way the Torah looks at it though. The Torah looks at each individual separately. There's a psak for you and there's a psak for him. And for each one individually,
Questions on the object.
Yeah?
Questions on the object.
No. The psak of Torah doesn't say a psak of a status of tumah or tara b'negei to the object. What's negei over here is the status of the person, of a gavra. And regarding each person, we can't confirm for sure that each person went in the place which is tamei. So therefore, Torah says for each individual separately, it could be a tamei, it could be a tahir. We don't know, as long as we don't know for sure that you're tamei, if it's in the Rishus Harabim, Torah paskins that you're tahir.
Yeah. That each one of these touched an object. So when we talk about each individual, you're right, each individual is touched.
Right.
So when we talk about the object is...
And a chanami, but that's not what the psak... You're true, you're right, but that's the psak of Torah is beneged to the person. And regarding the person, each person is beged a suffix.
So the object remains tahir, even though...
The object that each one of them touched, the taras that each one of them touched, will remain tahir, correct, because the object is affected by the gavra, the status of the person. If beneged to each person is the suffix, so the status will also affect the thing that they touched.
It's hard to find the logic.
Okay, I hear. And chanami. The same thing applies also b'negei to b'dikas chametz. When there's a chiyuv of b'dikas chametz, so you go lekula if you're asking the question separately, but if you ask the question together on both houses, so then it's going to need b'dikah. The next case, Dr. Gemara, Safek all, you have a situation where you have a Safek, that you see the mouse took the chametz. You saw the mouse in a courtyard, and there's two houses in the same courtyard, and it was near two houses. You're not sure which house it entered into. Safek all, which house did it go into? So Safek loyal, or it's a Safek that it did not enter into the house. Dr. Gemara, Hainu Bika. This is the same case that you have regarding a valley, where you have a suffix if a person entered into a place where there's tumah or not. Or beplukte the Rabbi Eliezer v'Rabbanan. What's their machlekes? The Tanan anichnas labika b'meisak shamim. Person goes into a valley and it's in the winter time. In the winter time, the reason why it says the winter, because in the summer a lot of people, it's open and you plant over there, and people are actually in the summer it's not planted. In the summer already they cut off all the wheat, and it's open for everybody to come in over there. So therefore it's like a Reshus HaRabim. But in the summer, where it's the time when it's planted and people do not walk in there, it's like a private property. In the winter that is, right? And people do not walk in there. V'tumeh besada plainis, and you have tumeh in a specific field. So it's a valley which is a bunch of fields, and there's only one place, one section of that valley that has tumeh. Then a person says, Halachti b'mokem alaz. I came into this general area, but ve'eni yedeya, I don't remember, I'm not sure, im nechnasti ba'oisa sada. Did I go into this individual field or not? Im loy nechnasti, or I did not. Rabbi Eliezer says in such a case, if you have a suffix, whether you entered into this field where there's tumah or not, you're tired. Even though usually a suffix of tumah in a reshus hayachid is tameh. Before, we were talking about Shnei Shvilin, which is a Safek Tumah in the Reshus HaRabim. There the halach is that you're Tumah, that you're Toir. A Safek Tumah in the Reshus HaYachid, the klal is that you're usually Tumah. But Rabbi Eliezer says over here, what's the Safek the person has? Did I enter into that field where the Tumah is? When that's your suffix, so you're going to be Toir. The Chachamim metamin, and the Chachamim say you're going to be Tumah. Because you were in that general vicinity in this valley, even though your suffix is, did I b'chlal enter into this field where the tumah is, it doesn't matter. That's considered to be a suffix tumah in Reshus HaYachid, then you'll be tumah. Shahoy, Rabbi Eliezer Aimer, suffix bia. If you have a suffix whether you entered into a place where the tumah is, tahir. Suffix maga, if you have a suffix whether you touched something that's there in that field that you entered into, then suffix maga tumah, then you are tumah. So Rabbi Eliezer says there's a big difference if you entered into a field and you were there in that specific field where the tumah is. When you enter in a general vicinity in a bikka, and you don't know if you enter into this field, over here Rabbi Eliezer says that there's a suffix bia. It's a suffix if you b'chlal enter into that field, and therefore you're going to be tahir. So Rashi says, when the Gemara brings this machlokes, b'negei the suffix tumah, we paskin when it comes to bedikas chametz like Rabbi Eliezer. If you look in the Rashi, chachamim metamin, in the end of that Rashi, the first wide lines, so the Rashi says that over here, even the Rabbanan are going to be made that bedikas chametz is midrabanan, so we're going to go lekula. And if the point of the Gemara's Shaila right now is, you have an achbar, you see the mouse, it's there in a chutzir, it's right near your house, and you saw it dragging chametz, and you're not sure if it entered into your house or not. So from this case, you see that if you follow according to Rabbi Eliezer, suffix, if it brought it into your house or did not bring it into your house, we pass kan lekula, that it's tahir. The next case is, like the Gemara, another suffix. All, you saw the achbar, the mouse, brought chametz into your house. Or badak, and then you went and you did bedika. You went and you searched for the chametz. Because you saw it bringing it into your house, you have to do bedika. V'lo yashkach. You didn't find any chametz. So what do you do now? Could you rely on the fact that because you did bedika, so it's done, finished? Or no, you saw the mouse bringing the chametz into your house, you couldn't find the chametz, and there's a problem now. So the Gemara plukte the Rab Meir v'Rabbanan. It's a machlokes of Rab Meir and the Rabbanan. The Tnanoy Rab Meir, Rab Meir said, Kol davar shebecheskas tumah, if you have an area that had a chazaka of tumah, so la'olam hu b'tumasai, it remains with its tumah, ad sheyivod lecha tumah heichan hi. If you know for a fact that in this field, in this area, there was a dead body, there was a caver, and you went and you did bedika in the field and you couldn't find it, you couldn't discover where it is, it remains in its the cheskas tumah, the status of tumah that it has, until you find it. Chachamim Maimrim, the Chachamim say no, Baidik, Ad Shemagia L'Sela or L'Karka Besula. You do bedika and you dig in the ground. You have to uncover every area in the field until you reach a place where there's a hard rock or karka basula. I'm not sure how you call that in English. You have the translation over there for karka basula. You come to the point where it's virgin ground. You come to a point where there's no earth. You can't dig any further. And once you inspected the entire field to that extent, so you could rely on the bedika and know for sure that there's no dead body that's buried over there. So Rashi again says over here that the Gemara is bringing this at Machlokes, Benegeh to Tumah, which is a shaila that could be Negeh and Atayra, but over here, Benegeh to Bedike, we're going to be Mekel, like Rab Meir, and say that over here, the Bedike that you did is good enough. You don't have to do anything else. Huh? The one that's Mekel over here is the Chachamim. So even Rab Meir, that is correct, even Rab Meir will be made to the Chachamim regarding Bedike, that once you did Bedike, then you rely on that. Taisus over here says that we're talking even in a case where a person did not do Bittul. Most of the questions of the Gemara in our Sugya is in a situation where the person already did Bittul. And the Gemara is discussing the Chiyuv of Bedike Midrabanan. Taisus says the main shaila of the Gemara was, after you did Bedike, and you didn't find anything, do you still have to do bittul or not? And the reason Taisus says this is because otherwise, Taisus says, what's B'chalal the Gemara's discussion? The person did bedika in every corner in his house, and now the Gemara is asking, what should he do now? What should he do? He did bedika. He did the most he could do. Was willst du von him? What else could he do? Says Taisus, the Ikar Shail of the Gemara was, does he have to do bittul over again? He already did his bedika, he did bittul also, or he did bittul before. The question is, does he have to do bittul again? That's the main shaila, when I get to bittul. Dr. Gemara Vaita, another case, there's a mouse that brought chametz into your house, ubadak, and you did bedike va'ashkach, and you actually found chametz. So now the question is, you came into the house and you found chametz, you didn't do bedike in the entire house. You didn't do bedike in the whole room. You came in and you found chametz right away. The question is, do you have to continue doing bedike and inspect the entire house because a mouse brought chametz into your house? Or could you rely on the fact, I found the chametz, this is the chametz that the mouse brought in, and I don't have to do any more bedikah. So the Gemara plukte, the Rebbe Rab Shimon Gamliel. This is a machlekes of Rebbe and Rab Shimon Gamliel, the Tanya, Sadeh, Shenevad Ba, Kever. You have a field, and you know that somewhere in this field is a kever, but you don't know where it was. Hanichnas aseicha tameh. You enter into this field, you're tameh, because wherever you are, there's a suffix tumeh. At Rishus HaYachid, the halach is a suffix tumeh, Rishus HaYachid, you're tameh. Nimtza ba kever. You found a kever in this field. So hanichnas l'teicha tar. Once you know where the kever is, shani yomer, I say, kever sha'ovad, hu kever sha'nimtza. This kever that was in the field, and now you discovered one kever, so you don't have to go and inspect the rest of the field. You rely on the fact that this is the kever that was here in the field. Divrei Rabbi. Rab Shimon Gamliel says, Tibadek kol asadek kula. If you know that there was a field, that there was a kever, and you found a kever in the field, it's not enough. You have to inspect the entire field. Maybe there was another kever. Maybe the chametz, the same thing over here. Maybe the chametz that you found is not the chametz that was brought into the house. Maybe there's more chametz. Maybe what you found is not what the mouse brought in. The point is, a house that bedika was done has the status of a house that's boduk. It's already checked, it's inspected, and it's pesachdik. Once a achbar brings chametz into the house, so now it changes the status of the entire house. Now it's not a house that's boduk anymore. Even if you found the chametz, but the whole status of the house changed, and you have to do bedika all over again. So it's not enough if you did bedika in one place, you have to do bedika on the entire house again. Sagt the Gemara weiter, the next case. Hiniach tes. You put down 9 pieces of chametz. Umatza yud. And you come back and you find that it's not 9, but it's 10. Who added the 10th piece over here? So the question is, what happened? The 9 pieces you put down are the same 9 pieces that you found, and there's only 1 piece that was added? Or maybe the 9 pieces that you put were taken away, and all 10 pieces that are there are new. So now you have to do bedikas chametz. You have to look for all pieces that you put. That's the question. Could you rely just on 1 piece being added to this? Or no, there's more over here in the house. Look to the Rebbe v'Rabbanan. So this as well is a machlokes of Rebbe and Rabbanan. Tanya, it says in the Braise, hiniach money. Person left a money of meiser money. Masayim, and now you find $200. You left $100 of meiser money, and you come back and you see $200 here. What is this? What's the money that you now found? So one opinion is chulin u'maisa sheni me'uravin zeh b'zeh. The money that you put there, the $100, that's $100. There's another $100 that somebody added, so it's chulin money that someone added to your maisa sheni. So it's chulin u'maisa sheni me'uravin zeh b'zeh. Divrei Rabbi. The Chachamim say hakoil chulin. It's all chulin money. Because there was there's more money that's added, so how do we know that it was more money added? This lav dafka more money added. The money that you placed there was taken away, and someone else came and put down other money there. So the same thing also with the chametz, that you have to be machmer, and you have to say that the chametz that you put down over there, how do you know that it's the same chametz that remained there? Maybe it's a whole new, someone took away the 9 that you put down, and now it's 10. It's a different number, so therefore you have to do b'dika all over again. The opposite, huh? A mouse took it away, or maybe a person also.
Took away all the 10, and then all the way 9 and put 10. Means a mouse took it? Yeah,
a mouse took it, whoever, or a person. The opposite case, we have you put down 10 pieces of chametz, and now umatza teisha, you found 9 pieces of chametz there. So the same achloikus applies also that Mishnah. Hainu Seifa. This is the Seifa of that Mishnah that says, or a Brais actually, that says, the Tanya, Hiniach Masayim, you put down $200 of Meiser, Umatza Mana, and now you find there's only one Mana there, Mana Munach, Mana Mutal. So then I could say, the money that I put, part of the money that I put is still there, and another part of the money somebody took. Divrei Rabbi. No, you put down $200 and now there's only $100 there, Akel Chulin. It's not what you put down, and you have to be chayshish that all of it is chulin. It's a new thing that was put down, and it's not what you put down over there. If you look here in the bottom places of the Amud, the Niach Eser and Motzah Teisha, so Teisha says that the case of here is talking about that you put down 9 pieces, you put down, and they were tied to each other. Kshurim zeh b'zeh. And because they were tied to each other, so if you take away one, the other ones go with it. So therefore, if you come back, and then you find, you put down 10, and now you found 9, so you're not going to say that Mistama, somebody came and took away only one. If you took one, he took all of them, because they were tied together. But in a case where they wouldn't have been tied together, you had separate pieces of chametz, and you put down 9, or 10, and now you find 9, so then we're going to rely on the fact that whoever took away just one piece. So the whole shaila of the Gemara is when these pieces of chametz are tied to each other. And that's how the Alter Rebbe brings it in Shulchan Aruch as well. If it would just be individual pieces of chametz, we're not going to be chayshish that whoever took away one piece, took away everything and put another 9 pieces there. He probably took away one piece. Same thing also. The Taisus brings over there from the Gemara in Beitza that says by the money the same thing, that the whole shaila, when you put down 200 and you found 100 is only if you had money that was tied to each other. But if it was separate, we're not going to be chayshish for such a thing. Sagt the Gemara weiter, hiniach bezavezu. You put down your chametz in one corner. Umatza bezaves acheres. And now you found your chametz in another corner. So the question is, could I say the chametz that I found in another corner is the same chametz that I put down? Someone just switched the location. Or maybe, no, it's a different chametz. What I put here is gone, and I have to find it somewhere in the house. And the chametz that I found in another corner is a different chametz. So again, this is a pluk to the Rab Shimon Gamliel Rabban on the Tanya and Abraisa. It says, Kardum she'ovad bebayis. You have an axe that was lost in a house. Habayis tameh. So the house, someone was here in this house. Someone came in and moved this object from one corner to another. So the house is going to be tameh. Shani Yaimir, because I say, Adam Tami Nichnas Lasham, there could be a person that was Tami that entered into the house, V'natla, and he took this axe. So if you don't see the axe over there, you have to be chayshish that someone came in and moved it. Shim B'Gamliel Yaimir, Rab Shimon Gamliel says, Habayis is toir, the house is toir. Shani Yaimir, Hish'iloi la'acher, you probably lent this item to somebody, V'shachach, and you forgot. Oisha Natloi, Mizav V'zu, V'niach V'zav V'sacheres. Or you took the axe that you had and it was in one corner and now you put it in another corner, v'shachach, and you forgot that you changed it from one location to another location. So we can rely on the fact that it's the same axe, it's not a different axe. Now the Gemara clarifies pshat in this braise, zavis man dachar shmei. In the braise, it doesn't talk about the fact that you put it in one corner and you found it in another corner. If you look in the beginning of the braise, what does it say? A kardum she'ovad bebayis. You put down an axe somewhere, and now you can't locate it. It's gone. It's not here. And then Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is talking about the fact that you put it in one corner and you find it in another corner. Whoever mentioned this in the beginning of the Braisa. So the Gemara explains, there's something missing here in this Braisa, and this is how you have to read it. Kardum shava that bebayis, you had an axe that you put down in a place in your house, and now it's gone. Habayis tame, the house is tame, shaniyayme, odem tame nichnas l'sham. There's a person that's tame that was here. He took this axe that you placed there, v'notla, and he took it. Oy, then you have to read in the Braisa, shaynicha bezavezu, matze bezaves acheres. You put down your axe in one corner, and now you find it in another corner. Again, abayis tame, shaniyayme, odem tame nichnas l'sham, v'notla bezavezu, v'nicha bezaves acheres. Someone was here. He took this from one place and put it in another place, so it makes your house tame. Because I say, if you can't find your axe, you probably gave it to someone, you lent it to someone. You forgot. Or in the case where you find it in a different corner, you probably moved it and you forgot. So the same thing over here, when you get to the chametz, we say that mistame, you put your chametz in one place, but then you forgot, and you relocated your chametz to another place, and you can rely on that, and you don't have to do the bedika over again. Dr. Gemara, another case, Omarove, achbar nichnas. You see a achbar, a mouse, entered into the house with chametz, v'kika b'piv. It has a piece of bread in its mouth. V'nichnas achrav, you follow this mouse, umatza pirurin, and you find crumbs on the ground. So what do you think? This is the crumbs that the mouse brought into the house. So I discovered it. Very good. It's done. Says the Gemara note, tzarich bedika. You actually have to go and do bedika on your house again. Once the mouse entered into your house with chametz, the status of your house now changes. It's not bodek anymore. Why? It's not the nature of a mouse to leave crumbs behind it. A mouse takes the chametz, it eats all the crumbs. Doesn't leave the crumbs there. Rava said in a similar situation, but over here was a tinik nichnas v'kika biyadei. If a child grabs chametz and runs into your house, v'nichnas achra, and you follow the child into your house, umatze pirurin, and you find crumbs that the child, and you're assuming that the child brought it in. In such a case, you could assume that it's the child that dropped these crumbs. Ein tzarich bedika mipnei shedarka shel tinik lafarer. It is the nature of a child when he eats to leave crumbs from what he brings into the house. So in such a case, you could rely that the crumbs that you found is the crumbs that the child brought into the house. Rav asked the following question: Ach bar nichnas, you have a mouse that came into the house. V'kika b'fiv, and he came into the house with a piece of bread. And ava'ach bar yaitze v'kika b'fiv. And then you see a mouse coming out of your house, also with a piece of bread in its mouth. What's the halacha? Mia merinon, do I say, hainu hai da'ol, v'hainu hai da'nofik? It's the same mouse. The same mouse came in with the chametz, and the same mouse came out with the chametz. I don't have to do any bedika over again. Or maybe I could say, no, achrinu. If there's one mouse here, there could be a second mouse here. There was one mouse that brought the chametz in, and now there's another achbar that was taking the chametz out, and it's not the chametz that was brought into the house. I have to go and search for that chametz. It's a different mouse that came out with the chametz. It's one shaila. Now if you're going to say, hainu hai da'ol, that the achbar that brought the chametz into the house is the same achbar that I saw coming out with the chametz, the hainu hai da'nofik, it's the same one that came out. How about if it's a different case? Achbar lava nichnas, the mouse that came in is a white mouse, and the kika b'fiv has a piece of bread in its mouth. The ach b'shacha yaitze, and there's a black mouse that came out with a piece of bread in its mouth. Mahu, what's going to be the halacha now? Hai vada yachrinuhu. So for sure, it's a different mouse. There's one mouse that came in and a different mouse that came out. So you have to do bedika. You have to go and find where's that mouse that dropped the chametz into your house. Or maybe I could say, armui arme mine. This mouse that came out is a different mouse, but it grabbed away the piece of bread from the mouse that brought it in, and now it brought out the chametz from the house. So it's taka a different mouse, but it's the same chametz. The chametz was taken out of the house, so I don't have to do bedika again. The Gemara says weiter, if you're going to say yachbarim leishaklim adadi. The mice, they don't take the chametz from each other. One mouse brings in the chametz, that mouse brought it in, put it in the house. Another mouse came out and had different chametz. The mice don't fight with each other. They don't take away chametz from each other. Ach benichna. So how about if you have another case? A mouse brought in chametz, v'kika b'fiv, v'chol de yaitze. And I have a weasel that came out. V'kika b'fiyah, and there's a piece of bread in its mouth. Mahu, what's going to be the halacha here? Here I could say, chulde vadai me'ach b'shakalte. A weasel will get into a fight with a mouse and for sure grab the chametz away from this mouse, so that when you saw the chametz being brought in, you can rely on the fact that the weasel took the chametz out. For sure, it's the same chametz. Or maybe it's not the same chametz. Why not? What's the nature of a weasel? And here the Gemara gets very specific, as we'll see in the Hemshech here, and get to how a weasel acts with an achbar, with a mouse. And over here, if you see the weasel is taking out chametz, the im isa, the me'ach b'shakalte, if it took the chametz from this mouse, achbar b'fi hava mishtakach. So then the weasel wouldn't be only holding a piece of bread in its mouth. It would grab the whole mouse in its mouth. You should have found the whole mouse in the mouth of the weasel together with the chametz. So the fact that the weasel is just holding a piece of bread in its mouth, going out of the house, it means that he didn't encounter this mouse that brought in the chametz. The mouse hid the chametz in the house, and you have to do bedika again. So the question is, when you get to the nature of the weasel, when you see the chametz being brought out, and you don't see the mouse being brought out, could you rely that it's the same chametz or not? Now if you're going to say, that if it's true that this weasel took the chametz away from this mouse, then the weasel would have had the mouse itself in its mouth. So a different case, we could have a shaila. A mouse came into the house, and he has a piece of bread that he brought into the house. Now and then you have a weasel that comes out of the house, and now this weasel actually has a mouse in its mouth, and it also has a piece of chametz in its mouth. What's going to be the halacha now? What's the shaila? So this is the mouse that came into your house with the chametz, and this is also the chametz. So you know for sure that it was cleaned out. Whatever came in left. Or maybe I could say, no. What happened over here? The weasel has the mouse in its mouth, and it has the chametz in its mouth. If this is the mouse that the weasel got with the chametz that was brought in, kikar b'fi achbar mishtakach have. So then the chametz would have been in whose mouth? In the weasel's mouth, in the chulda's mouth, in the mouse's mouth. When the chulda encountered the achbar, it grabbed hold of the mouse, and the chametz was in the mouth of the achbar. So the chametz would have still been in the mouth of the achbar. So again, kika b'fi achbar mishtakach have boy. It should have been found in the mouth of the mouse. Or maybe I could say, not necessarily. Mishum bi'asusa hu nafal. When the mouse saw the weasel, it got very afraid, and the chametz fell out of its mouth. B'shakalte, and the weasel grabbed the mouse, and it also grabbed the chametz. So now you see that the chametz is in the mouth of the weasel, together with a mouse that's in the mouth of the weasel, and I could say that it probably brought it out. Teiko. This shaila, the Gemara doesn't give an answer. So in all of these shailas that the Gemara says over here, the Gemara says im tim tzalaymar. The klal is, whenever the Gemara says im tim tzalaymar, we paskin like that im tim tzalaymar. So all of these questions the Gemara answers, and we paskin according to the im tim tzalaymar, besides the last question regarding the nature of a weasel when it grabs the mouse together with the chametz, and you have the chametz in the mouth of the weasel. Do I say that it's the same chametz or not? Only the last shaila is a teiko. Talk to Gemara. Now all these cases are very uncommon cases. Now the Gemara comes back to a more simple common case. Bayirove, kikar b'shmei kaira. You have chametz that's on the top of a roof somewhere. It's on a high place. Tzarech sulam la'irida. When you do bedikas chametz, you have to get a ladder and do bedikas chametz and look on a high place to take it down. Or no, you don't have to. What's the question based on? Do you say kula lo yaterchu rabbanan? When the rabbanan obligated you to do bedika, besides bittul, Chachamim said you must do bedika as well. They didn't demand of you to go so far to go and climb up and look at a roof to take off the chametz. Why not? Kivin deloy noches min afshei. This is not something that might fall down on its own. Lo yasil lemechle. You're not going to come to eat it. Or maybe zimnin the nafel. It's possible a wind will blow, something will happen, and it'll fall down. And you're going to come to eat it. So therefore, you do have to go and get the chametz down, even from a high spot. It's this Gemara that Taisus brings a raya to his pshat that he says in the beginning of the Masechta that the reason that Chachamim obligated bedikas chametz is because you might come to eat it. If the reason for bedikas chametz was like the shittas that it says in other Rishonim, that we can't rely on bittul because the bittul that a person does is not necessarily sincere and it's not necessarily with a full heart. so it's not really hefker, so therefore the chametz is still found in your house, and you're oivan by your by your matzah. What difference does it make if it's going to fall or not? It's in your house. It's present in your territory. You're oivan by your matzah. What difference does it make if it's going to fall down or not? The fact that the Gemara over here says that the concern is that you might come to eat it or not, and the question is whether it's going to fall down or not, says Taisvis from here is a raya that the reason for bedikas chametz is that you shouldn't come to eat the chametz. I mentioned yesterday, the Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch says that there's more than one reason for why we must do bedikah, but the main reason is that you shouldn't come to eat it. And the raya is from this Gemara. I mentioned yesterday, if you have a spot in your house where chametz falls in a place and you can't uncover it, you don't have to do bedikah. You don't have to break open the floor or place to do the bedikah, because it's a place where you're not going to come to eat it. You don't have to do bedikah. But gluske yafe was not that you're going to come to eat it. By the gluske yafe, it's because you might not burn it right away. And if you don't burn it the moment you find it, you're even by your matzah. Here the Gemara Beferish says the lashon loy asi lemechla, that as long as you won't come to eat it, you don't have to do bedikah. Sagt the Gemara weiter, v'im timtzalei mar, if you're going to say regarding this case where the chametz is found on a roof, zimnin the nafala, might fall down on its own, v'asi lemechla, and you're going to come to eat it. And this is how we paskin, that you have to do bedikah when it's in a high place, you have to do bedikah and take it down. But the question now is, kika b'bayr, if you have a piece of chametz that fell into a pit, tzarech sulam la'aloisa, do you need a ladder to go and bring it out of the pit, or ein tzarech, or not? What's the question? Hacha, in this case, vaday deloy avida de salkim and afsha. The chametz is not coming out of the pit on its own. It's not going to fall down. It's there in the pit and it's going to stay there whole Pesach. Or maybe I should be concerned, zimnin de nachis lemevet tzarche. If there's a pit there, you might have some purpose that you have to go down there. And then when you're there, you might come to eat it. So therefore you have to go and do bedikah. Imtim tzalaima, says the Gemara. Now if you're going to say, Zim in the Nochis, you might go down in the pit Litzarche for the purpose of whatever it is you have to do there. Vasil Mechla, you might come to eat it. So the final shaila of the Gemara is Kikar Befi Nochash. You have a piece of chametz in your house, but the piece of chametz is in the mouth of a snake. It's in a place where, if it's in the mouth of a snake, the question is, do you have to do bedikah or not? What's the basis of the Gemara's question? Tzarech chaver lahaitzi or ein tzarech? Do you have to get a chaver? In this case, the taisha, the word chaver is a professional, someone that's going to make a fight with a snake to get it away from him. Do you have to hire somebody? Do you have to pay somebody to get the chametz away from the snake or not? So Taisus over here explains, first let's see the lashon of the Gemara. It's like the Gemara, begufei atrachur abanon. Do I say that the obligation of bedikas chametz is only for you to go and do bedikah with your body, to go and look for the chametz? If you have to hire somebody, if you have the chametz in a dangerous place, like in this example, in the chametz in the mouth of a snake, so you have to hire a professional to do the bedikah, to get the chametz out of there, Chachamim did not obligate you to pay money for your bedikah. Or there's no difference, even in a case where you have to pay, and it's a case so you have to hire a professional, you have to pay to do the bedikah. Teiku. Taisus here explains that we had before in the Gemara that a person is ready to pay for bedikah, and you have to pay for bedikah's chametz. If you remember, we had a case of a renter. He comes into a house and he thought that the bedikah was done, and he has to pay for the bedikah. So says Taisus, the only reason the Gemara has a question over here is because there's a tzad to say that the snake is going to eat the chametz, or the snake is going to take out the chametz. So in such a case, if you have to hire and pay someone for the bedikah, we have a question whether you have to pay for it or not. But in a regular case, for sure you have to pay for bedikah. If a person is too old or doesn't have the koyach to do bedikah, you're going to have to pay somebody to do bedikah's chametz. The only reason we have a shaila is because it's in the mouth of a snake, and possibly he's going to eat it or take it out on his own. So in such a case, you don't have to hire a professional for this.